We're just going to start recording the session, and before we get into the discussion today, we always want to acknowledge that we live, learn, and work on the traditional lands of the Cosepson and the Lekwungen families. I'm working from home from Victoria today as well, and I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm on the Cosepson and the Lekwungen lands as well, and really grateful to be here today and to be able to bring this information to you. So today we're going to be talking about careers in environmental science. We're in month 7, I believe, of this crazy time and this pandemic that has been affecting so many of us. And with that in mind, we recognize that many people are thinking about how they may want to shift their career, what their next steps might be, and what that might look like. So we really wanted to bring this discussion to you today. So I'm Christy Jones. I work for Royal Roads, and I have the opportunity to work in particular with the School of Environment to promote their programs and to really offer events like this to all of you. With that in mind, I'm not the expert in environmental science, but I have a load of panelists here today who are experts in that, and I'm so thrilled to get into the discussion with them today. And I will introduce them a little down the road once we get through a little bit more of our agenda for today. So I'm going to take us a little bit through a brief overview of Royal Roads University and who we are, just in case you aren't familiar with us. Then we're going to go through an outlook of the whole industry as a whole with Eco-Canada. So we have Ailsa here today who will be taking us through that section and the research that they've been doing to project what this industry is going to look like in the years to come. Then we'll dig into our open panel discussion. And of course, we want to answer your questions throughout. So if you do want to test out the chat box now, you can kind of let us know where you're going to be joining us from. You can say where you're joining from the country, if you're already working in this field, if you're interested in this field, anything that you want to share, you're welcome to use the chat box now. And then of course, once we get into the panel discussion, we will be checking out the chat box and answering as many questions as we can in that section. So a little bit about Royal Roads. If you aren't familiar with us, we are based in Victoria, BC. You can see Hatley Castle on the top left-hand corner there. We are in Hatley Park, which is a National Historic Site. And we also have many other beautiful locations for you to explore on our campus. We have the Japanese gardens pictured on the top right-hand corner, a Esquimalt Lagoon, so we're right on the water as well. And we also have tons and tons of trails for you to visit. So we are on over 500 acres of old growth forest. So we haven't been on campus for a while, but we invite you to come and pay us a visit if you're in the area and when traveling becomes a little bit more okay again. And with that in mind, we've been doing online learning for 25 years. That's how Royal Roads started out, with a mandate to really provide this type of education for working professionals who could still continue working and learning at the same time seamlessly. And we're also an Ashoka U Changemaker campus. So this is a designation that has been given to a select number of institutions, and it really means that the education that we provide is really interdisciplinary, entrepreneurial, and also solutions oriented. So this extends not just in the curriculum of our courses, but out into the community in the events that we try to hold to spread that further than just our own campus and campus community. So that is kind of who we are. And with that, I really want to spend as much time as possible getting into the information for you today. And I'm just going to, before I pass it over to Ailsa, I'm just going to check out the chat box to see where everybody's joining from. So Nancy works in financial risk and would like to expand to environmental risk. Fantastic. We have Clayton studying and working in the field in Langford. Fantastic. Sophia studying environmental science in Copenhagen. Wow. But originally from Toronto and studied forestry science at UBC. Okay, and there's tons more introductions coming in here. So feel free to keep popping those in. And I encourage you, if you are a participant, to read through and see where everybody's joining from today. And you never know who you're going to meet in the chat box as well, who might be able to be a part of your network. You might want to ask a question to them as well. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Ailsa, if you want to unmute yourself, and I can control the slides. So just let me know when you want me to move over to the next one.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christy. And thanks everyone for joining today as well. It's really exciting to see everything coming through the chat box, what everyone's studying and where everyone is working and living. So really glad to be here with you all this afternoon. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of Eco-Canada. My name's Elsa Popilian, and I'm the team lead of marketing communications at Eco Canada. And what part of what we do is we're really the steward for Canadian environmental workforce across all industries. So we champion the end-to-end career of an environmental professional. And what that essentially means is that we offer programs and services that support those working in the industry, as well as supporting the employers who are really the ones who are helping this industry to grow and thrive and provide those job opportunities. In addition to those supports, some of what we do is we offer a job board, and I would encourage anyone who's actively seeking a job, or if you're studying and you're looking for what type of jobs are out there, feel free to visit the Eco Canada job board and see some examples of job opportunities that are currently there. And they're changing all the time, which is fantastic. We're always getting great new jobs coast to coast right across Canada coming in. We have a research group which offers labor market information, research insights into the industry, as well as we offer career profiles. So if there's a job that you're specifically interested in, our website likely has a profile already there, and you can see kind of what a day in the life would be like for that. In addition, we have academic program accreditation. So we work with universities and colleges across Canada to ensure that their curriculum is aligned with what the industry is looking for. So graduates have the outcomes of the program that have the right knowledge and the skills to begin their work within the sector. And in relation to that, we have a great partnership with Royal Roads University, where we have created some joint programs that we've accredited to ensure those outcomes as well. We also offer wage funding programs for employers and job seekers to kind of match them up and bridge the school to work transition. We offer a co-op student program as well as full-time placements for graduates. And these really help to reduce employment barriers, especially for youth. One of the other things that we do at Eco Canada is we offer our EP, Environmental Professional Designation. So it's a professional certification that you can obtain upon graduation. And there's 3 levels of membership there that correlate to years of experience. So whether you're just starting out in your career, whether you're an established professional already working in the industry, or whether you're specialized in something like environmental auditing, we would take your knowledge and your skill set and evaluate that against a set of national standards and competencies before awarding that designation. And we're also committed to lifelong learning. So we offer professional development opportunities. Those include courses and workshops and webinars and events. And really that all ties in with our overall goal, which is to promote and drive sustainable economic growth and ensuring that environmental care is really the priority. Thanks, Christy. We can go to the next slide. Just last week, actually, we released our latest official report on the labor market in Canada. Our environmental outlook report focuses on the demand for workers within the sector. So 2020 has not been kind to a lot of industries. There have obviously been effects on work within this sector as well, from COVID, from energy downturn and market changes. But the good news is here that the latest research and the long-term projections are that the future of the sector is fairly rosy and is actually expected to increase by 8%, which is great news. A few findings from the report are that 1 in every 30 workers in Canada is now considered an environmental worker. Environmental work is spread over every region and in almost every single occupation within Canada as well. The total number of workers currently working in the environmental sector is 620,000. The projection is that 50,000 new jobs will be created in the sector between now and 2029. And in addition to that, 183,000 openings for jobs will be created due to retirements, with almost 30% of the workforce set to retire. So the message here is really that there are going to be new jobs being created within this industry. In addition, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for graduates and people working in the sector already to advance in their careers with the replacement demand, which is the retiree job openings. So almost half of these new net openings, which total about 233,000, are going to be for core environmental workers. And those are roles that really do require specific environmental competencies. So we can move on to the next slide. We know that there's a few drivers of trends that are really creating this growth, this really unprecedented and fantastic growth that we're seeing over the next decade. It's really a continuation of a trend that we have already seen, but the fantastic news is that 90% of occupations now involve some type of environmental work. We know that legislation and policy is becoming increasingly more stringent, and this really leads to a demand within industries to hire more environmental workers to ensure compliance. So that really kind of ties in with the convergence of all of these factors, the market factors, regulatory factors, social factors, because public demand for environmental solutions is really a key issue and a key driver here as well. And all this really ties in with the fact that there's an opportunity here for Canada and our economic recovery to happen with a green lens. So some of those main trends are listed there on screen that we've already chatted about, but demand for green solutions is really key here, and tying that in with economic growth is going to be critical to the success of growing the environmental industry within Canada. So we can take a look at the next slide. The latest Outlook report numbers really do show demand for opportunities within the sciences. So within natural and applied sciences, that's one of the highest areas of growth or expansion. And for advancement opportunities, when we talk about that retiree job opening opportunity, there's going to be upwards of 57,000 jobs anticipated in that particular area in natural and applied sciences. And that's the second highest replacement demand out of any of the areas that we researched. So areas with above average growth, and that's compared to all industries across Canada and the anticipated national net job growth. So areas that are going to be above average for Canada will include energy efficiency, nature conservation, the blue economy, clean tech, and sustainable transportation. And I had a chance to go on our job board earlier and pull a few examples of jobs that are currently out there now that would really tie in with environmental sciences careers. So currently, there are companies looking for environmental technicians, soil scientists, environmental assessment and permitting practitioners, and junior environmental scientists. And that's just a quick sample from just our job board of the type of jobs and careers that are out there and available at the moment. Next slide, please, Christy. Thank you. So a couple of years ago, we reached out to environmental employers and asked them, what are they looking for? What are the key things that they need within their own companies, within their employees? What do they think are the most critical pieces of knowledge for people to have who are entering this sector and working within this sector? So the number one was policy and legislation. And I've already talked about that a little bit and touched on that, but it's really key to have that knowledge right now and stay on top of that knowledge as well. Industry knowledge is also right up there. And that can be, given that there's a breadth now of industries that employ environmental workers, and we're seeing non-traditional industries that a few years ago we wouldn't have considered touching on the environmental sector. So transportation and manufacturing and consumer goods, all of these will require specific industry knowledge that ties in with that environmental legislation piece as well. Sustainability was there at 42%. So also, a key trend that we've seen in the last number of years, if not decades now. Site assessment remains one of the top ones. I worked in environmental consulting for a remediation reclamation company. So I know that's a key area where a lot of people start out in their careers as well. And climate change. So if you are looking to, take continuing education or a new form of studying, these are some of the things that we know employers have told us that they're looking for, and these are great areas where you can focus some of your efforts as well if you know that employers need these type of skills.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ilza. And is there anything else you want to add on to this before we move on to the panel discussion?
No, that's it, but I'm happy to answer questions when we get to after the panel discussion. And if anyone has any questions for me about any Eco Canada programs and services, feel free to send me a message in the chat.
I'm wondering if you actually want to pop a link to just your website in the chat box too, if people want to check it out while we're in the session as well.
I will do that. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Alrighty, so I am going to introduce all of our amazing panelists as we get into this discussion, and I will preface this with, excuse me if I look like I'm looking away from the camera. I have a multi-screen situation going on, and I want to make sure I don't miss any details of what these fantastic panelists are up to and their careers. So I'm going to start off with Emily Francis. So Emily is actually an alumni from our Bachelor of Science and Environmental Science program, which is fantastic. Her environmental career journey has brought her a variety of different experiences, from operating a forklift at an industrial organic waste management plant to publishing illustrations for a Canadian environmental children's novel, to organizing environmental education programs for over 1,500 participants. She currently resides on Galiano, which is a remote island of 1,000 permanent residents, where she lives out her nature nerd dreams working as an education coordinator at the Galiano Conservancy Association. And you have all met Ilza. So Ilza is going to continue on with our panel, and she is on the marketing end for Eco Canada, and she brings a depth of experience that we're really excited to keep tapping into throughout this conversation. So Joanna is a biophysical lead at Two Worlds Consulting here in Victoria, actually, and is a registered professional biologist with experience as an environmental consultant in the role of wildlife lead on projects in mining, oil and gas, and the government sectors. Joanna has extensive experience in environmental impact assessment, wildlife management and monitoring plans, consultation with government agencies and Indigenous groups, and supporting clients in navigating evolving environmental policies and guidelines. Outside of work, Ms. Preston is actively engaged in youth nature literacy and species at-risk stewardship programs in the Capital Regional District, which is a bit of a tongue twister at the end there. And last but not least, we have Erica. So Erica is a senior technical coordinator for Western Canada at TerraPure Environmental. Erica is a graduate of the Bachelor of Science in Biology from the University of New Brunswick, St. John. Erica's career began in recycling and compost operations, working for a municipal landfill in New Brunswick, and she's moved on from the landfill to Alberta, where she began managing hazardous industrial waste from both oil and gas industries and manufacturing industry. So today, Erica is joining us from Victoria, BC, and her current role is working closely with a regional commercial team across Western Canada to assist clients in profiling contaminated or hazardous industrial waste in order to provide environmentally responsible and safe disposal options. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation, and I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody's faces a little bit More largely there. Okay, perfect. So with that in mind, I thought we could go around and do a bit of a roundtable to start us off, and talk a little bit about what a day in the life looks like in each of your positions, and yeah, what your role really entails. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Joanna first to dig into that question.
Hi everyone, thank you for inviting me on this panel. Yeah, pretty excited to be sharing some of my experiences with you and perhaps helping you decide where and how to pursue your environmental science careers. So I've worked in consulting now. I started out as a wildlife biologist, pretty much a seasonal field assistant for some bird surveys. I think was my first thing about 22 years ago now. So now, kind of branched into more management, more senior leadership roles that just naturally occurs over time with experience. So currently I'm working at a small company in Victoria called Two Worlds Consulting, and we're about 17 people now. We're certainly growing in the last few months, which is pretty exciting. And we work on a number of environmental assessment projects, as well as kind of engagement strategies and planning. It's Indigenous owned company, so we do work strongly with Indigenous groups. There's also government, industry. You may find out, or you may know that industry is definitely the bread and butter of a lot of environmental consultants. Especially in British Columbia, across Canada. I guess the day in the life of what I do is, I'm leading the biophysicals components of environmental assessments, a lot of reporting, a lot of team management, kind of collaboration, working in both independent and working in a team setting, being pretty strict with timelines, budgeting. We're working for clients, so we have clients, and we're consultants to clients. So, and managing risk. So managing risk for our company, managing risk for, in terms of our integrity and ethics, managing risk to the projects we're working on and to our clients' interests. We're there as advisors and to support them in navigating the whole process of how does a proposed project, say it's perhaps a liquefied natural gas facility on the coast of BC. How does it get through? How does it get approved for kind of environmental assessment application? So we're there to support and to work on looking at effects assessments, impacts to the environment, impacts to Indigenous interests, and kind of bringing it all together in a report. And then goes to a regulator for their decision on the project. So we're not there as decision makers. We're there to provide the information that is needed for an informed decision by the regulator. And in BC, it's the Environmental Assessment Office. It's a BC government, and often a lot of our work is federally regulated as well. So we're looking across Canada and looking at federal government guidelines and regulations as well. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell for me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joanna. And I will make a note that if you do hit the, to all the participants, if you do hit the view button at the top, for me, it's right-hand corner of the screen. It allows you to change the view to see the speaker a bit more up close if it didn't automatically do that for you as well. Just a more preferable view in my opinion. So thank you so much for sharing what a day in the life looks like for you. And with that, Erica, would you like to share a little bit from your background as well?
For sure. So I'm the Senior Technical Coordinator at TerraPure Environmental. And so for a day in the life, I'll go through that a little bit. So basically, I work with a commercial team across Western Canada to support our facilities. So that's anywhere from Victoria up to Prince George and out to Saskatchewan. And so I assist them in profiling industrial hazardous waste to make sure it's handled in a safe way, and to make sure the environmental regulations are upheld. So in other words, our sales team will come to me with an opportunity from the field, and I'll work with them and our client to scope the work. So this information is used to develop a waste disposal plan, so we figure out where it's going, how we're going to handle it safely, in an environmentally responsible way, and this information is then used to develop the cost estimate for the client. So this process involves reviewing the generating process of the waste. We work with all different industries, everywhere from the public sector, so we could be working with the Department of National Defense, or we could be working in the oil field industry, and we work with environmental consultants as well. So it could be, it's a wide range of people that we work with. So we'll review the generating process of the waste. This could mean referencing analytical against environmental regulations, requesting SDS sheets on product that might need to be disposed of, and then communication with our operations from the various facilities across Western Canada to determine if we have a treatment option for it as well. So it really involves understanding the volume of waste, what's being generated, and then from there determining the type of equipment that will be required to complete the work. So this could be anything from sending a field technician out to a chemistry lab to do a lab pack. So that's when you put all the small chemicals into a drum and make sure they're packed with compatible chemicals. Or it could mean sending a vacuum truck out to collect contaminated water. That could be groundwater or from a site that's hydrocarbon impacted. We have various water treatment facilities to deal with that. Yeah, and then on the side, I sort of do also sort of ad hoc projects for the company. So this could mean building a business case to, purchase for capital to purchase a new truck or a piece of equipment that's going to make our group more cost effective and provide solutions to our customers. That's sort of the day in the life for me.
Very cool. And I think people might be interested to hear in general too, like the wide variety that TerraPure does as well. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
It's a really wide variety. So TerraPure provides waste management, environmental and field services to a broad range of commercial and institutional customers. So I'm specialized in industrial hazardous waste, but we have an entire team that does like field service work where they're on sites using automated technology to clean tanks. We of course support them in the waste disposal aspect of that. But we're continually seeking out creative and safe, cost-effective solutions to environmentally challenging problems to a broad industry sector. But yeah, we do. And then water treatment, of course, is another big part of that. Yes, that's some of what we do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Erica. And now I will put it over to Emily.
Hello, everyone. So I am the education coordinator at the Galiano Conservancy Association. And the Galiano Conservancy Association is a small not-for-profit environmental organization on Galiano Island, which is within the southern Gulf Islands of BC, so just between Victoria and Vancouver. We're one of the rocks that you guys pass on the way over. So what we do quite a few things. So we do environmental restoration, land protection. We're a land trust, so we protect, to date, we've protected over 204 hectares, I believe, of land. We do sustainable agriculture. So we grow food from our permaculture gardens, which we produce for our local community and for people, other people who'd like to purchase it. And then we do education. So that is my department. And so as an education coordinator, I wear so many different hats because we're so small. So day in the life for me, I have field days where I will actually go out and teach mostly K-12 youth in different environmental topics. So this could be taking them to the beach one day and we learn about marine biology, we learn about oceanography, We go up to the forest, we'll learn about BC's forestry industry, sustainable forestry practices, forest rehabilitation. We do things like renewable energy. We have a center, the Millard Learning Center, which is also open to the public all year round. That we have all of our classroom building and campground there, and our office is all solar powered, and so we have a renewable energy program. We'll teach those kids, and we also run university field schools through there and support individual post-secondary projects. So some people who are doing their master's projects or their PhDs will come, or even their BScs will come and visit, and we'll support them in delivering those projects, or through field schools as well. We also do adult programs, and so while I'm in the field, I'm also doing that. We have one coming up where we're doing a herbal workshop. So we're going into the forest and looking for native plants that we can sustainably and ethically, and obviously with permission, harvest so that we can use in different medicines and remedies. So that's one of the adult workshops we do. We also do teacher professional development. So we have a variety of field courses that we do. But while I'm not in the field, I'm coordinating with potential people who want to come and participate in our environmental education program. So again, that variety of audience. I'm also doing things like marketing and web design and all this stuff to try and promote all of the stuff that we do. I plan events and other things that'll help finance some of our programs. So we have a bursary program where we help youth in need to come over to Galliano to do some of those programs that I just mentioned. And so I'm busy trying to coordinate those kinds of events and other fundraising methods. So I'm doing things like grant applications and looking into wage subsidies, things like Eco Canada. We actually hire a lot of our summer students through programs similar to Eco Canada and the Canada Summer Jobs Wage Subsidy. So I'm also kind of involved in that on the back end administrationally. So yeah, lots of things, but yeah, have a lot of fun doing it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Emily. I used to work in the not-for-profit area, so I understand the many hats thing. It can makes you very well versed in a lot of different areas for sure. And Elsa, I wonder, like, there must be some folks in the audience here. Feel free to type in the chat box, but if you are interested more in like the marketing communication end, that would be awesome if you can explain a little bit about your background, or if you'd like to share as well what it was like for you to be in the consulting end of things as well too. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out my career actually coordinating engineering projects, and then moved over to work in environmental consulting, and kind of fell in love with the industry and seeing, you know, change happening firsthand, which is fantastic. And I think the reason why a lot of people get into this type of field of study as well. And yeah, I was wearing many hats as well. So in addition to marketing communications, I was out doing groundwater sampling and soil sampling and a lot of other interesting and diverse things. And I was taking the site assessment and remediation courses through REU for a while. So really kind of trying to round out my knowledge of the industry as well as working in it. And now at Eco Canada, I'm also wearing many hats, and no 2 days look the same when you're working in marketing or communications. I'm sure Emily knows this very well, you know, being in that not-for-profit space. And yeah, it could be this morning I got to post a blog about one of our partners who was just obtained the CA/GBC zero carbon building standard. So, you know, I'm learning a lot of really interesting things that are happening within different areas of the environment as I'm going about my day-to-day work as well. So certainly, you know, if you're looking into a not-for-profit role or for a smaller company, there's always plenty of opportunity to get a diversity and a breadth of experience.
Fantastic. Thanks everybody for providing a little bit more information about what your job really looks like and what it's like to be in your type of role. And I wanted to kind of start it off with asking you all what really first drew you to be in this industry. I know a lot of people end up falling into a different area of work by accident, or sometimes it can be really intentional that you wanted to work into this industry. So I'm going to leave this open to whoever wants to start on this one, on kind of how you first got into it, or like what really drew you to be in this industry.
It's Joanna here. For me, it's I always had a passion for wildlife and conservation. When I first came to Canada, you may tell I'm not Canadian. I come from England, and when I first arrived, it was just an amazing part of the world. I came to BC, and I think BC is pretty special. And I just got really sucked into bird biology, field work, and kind of nature-based learning. I didn't know a thing about birds, but over time, through training and through just being with others who have that experience, I really got the experience and the skills for doing like my own bird surveys, wildlife habitat assessments, and I've been getting a bit of the skills and the knowledge for field-based science learning, and I think that really set me up to looking ahead and where I wanted to go. I never really thought of being a consultant. I always thought I'd work for a nonprofit, maybe in conservation kind of thing. But my first big, I guess, opportunity was with Stantec Consulting. It's a big company, kind of environmental and engineering. They do a lot kind of environmental assessment stuff, but they always, they have a big team just doing dedicated to wildlife team. So that's where I started out, and I think that really gave me the opportunity to really develop those skills in the field as well as reporting. I think learning how to write, like technical writing skills. You may come out of university having done a lot of report writing, but the real skill is knowing who your audience is and how you're summarizing data you've collected in a succinct way that is understandable to everyone, and then applying that for, you're looking at solutions. It's always solution oriented. You're looking at solving your client's problem, like if there's a species at risk, is there habitat, is there, what are the opportunities for mitigating? And that really, that was really exciting for me. Is like I'm at that, part of the solution team. Like, we have development projects. It's part of the economy of Canada, and so being part of doing the environmental assessment and meaningful, mitigation measures and developing management plans, working with Indigenous groups also impacted by these projects, and developing big monitoring programs. So that's what I really took to the environmental consulting side. You talk about many hats, and I often do find I'm working on other things I've never thought I'd be looking for, blue-grey tail-dropper slugs and snails. If I started out in birds, but I do a lot of caribou reporting now, because caribou is a big deal in BC. So you get the experience, and if you're driven to learn and you're driven to apply your skills, you can work on so many different parts of the environment. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I hope the quality was good. It looked like the quality was cutting out a bit there.
Yeah, it cut out a few times, but I think overall we heard the majority of it. But we'll let you know if it kind of starts to waver a bit. But thank you, Joanna. Does anybody else have any thoughts or on that one?
I got into this industry, so as a kid, my parents would always take me camping. And so like that was like a really important experience for me growing up. And so it just made sense to me. Like I was learning more and more as I was growing up about all these environmental problems. And I was just like, how can I help the environment? So that's kind of what brought me into this industry. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great, thanks. And while we have you, Emily, I see a question here for you. Any advice on applying for an environmental educator position? I'm a recent graduate of the RRU Environmental Science program and have experience working with children in an educational setting, but no experience in environmental education.
Right. Oh, awesome. Christina, cool. Thanks for your question. That educational experience is actually more valuable than you'd think, because before you can teach the environment, you kind of need to know how you can manage, if it's kids or adults, and how you're going to engage with that audience. So that experience is super valuable and essentially is some of the background that got my job. So like I did a lot of volunteer work, particularly at the Salish Sea Center, or Salish Center for the Salish Sea up in Sydney. It's a lot of S's. It's basically an aquarium. But so they have this awesome volunteer program that you can go and essentially interpret some of the creatures that are there and interact with the public. And that's a really good way to start kind of doing that, is through volunteer experiences, or through even like if you have childcare experiences or summer camp experiences. Like you're all in an outdoor setting for summer camp. You're interpreting the environment to some extent, like while as you interact with it. So all of those experiences are super valuable. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks, Emily. Yeah, and I think no matter what industry you're in, getting in some volunteer experience never hurts at all. It can only result in either something to put on your resume or a connection. Like it can only good things can come from that. And I see a question here from Sophia. It seems like a lot of environmental science openings are for more senior positions, intermediate biologists, managers, etc. What do you suggest doing to get experience, and what do you suggest as far as a first job for environmental scientists? And I see a lot of people seconding that question above, and I know it's that whole, dilemma of you don't have the experience to get your first job, but how do you get the experience if nobody will, let you get your foot in the door and that sort of thing. So does anybody want to start off on that one?
Yeah, I will. I was typing in a response, but I will let you really say it instead. I think in my experience, and I think across many consulting companies, the junior positions are often available for the seasonal part of the work, to field data collection. For example, in wildlife, a lot of the wildlife surveys get done in May, June, July, August. So those months. So a lot of those positions are often available then. So, look around March, April, May for job postings, either directly through the consulting company's websites, or various avenues like LinkedIn often posts junior positions, and they may say, it's seasonal work. However, I do find a lot of that seasonal work, a lot of junior biologists, if they're doing a good job and they also offer, they're good at data entry and reporting, and if they're offering, hey, I can write this technical data report with this data, can I do that? And if you offer, then I have found, and in many places, that those junior positions get turned into full-time positions. And also another thing is co-op positions. They're very, I think a lot of companies really like co-op students. Again, they'll advertise them as seasonal work, temporary work, maybe 3 or 4 months at a time. But I do find a lot of those positions, they can we get renegotiated and turn into full-time positions. So yeah, I would encourage people to take those jobs. Oftentimes it can become full-time, and you gain so much experience being field biologists. I can't say that more enough, that the field work, especially, those coming out of university, those, primarily young, and, you're not committed to family life or yet, just make yourself available and do the field work, and that can really lead to, furthering your career. And there's so many skills that you take on. And also, in environmental consulting, health and safety is a huge deal, especially with the clients that we work with in industry. And, when you're working on, you may not come with first aid or anything that, they're looking for, but, they would be providing those training opportunities. And that would be really good as well for you to take, even if you don't stay. You got a lot of that training under your belt. Take that onto your resumes. I think it's really valuable to show that you've got health and safety training for any future jobs as well.
I can add to what Joanna was saying in terms of, as an organization that really does try to give people opportunities to find environmental employment, those co-op positions can be fantastic ways to get your foot in the door. Emily had chatted earlier about volunteer work as well, being kind of a key driver of her getting into environmental education. And so any type of opportunities you can find out there, you never know where they're going to lead to a job opportunity for you. So volunteering, co-op student work. I know with our own co-op placement programs, you don't have to be in an actual designated co-op program. You could be a student and still qualify for that, or your employer could qualify for that funding. Another thing that we hear from employers all the time, and a really great opportunity if you're willing to go down this route, is employers tell us that they struggle to hire in remote areas. And sometimes there are a lot of great opportunities out there, they're just not in urban areas. And so if you're willing to spend, like Joanna said, if you're willing to spend a season out doing field work, or you're willing to maybe spend a year in the Northwest Territories, or see another part of Canada that you may have not considered for work, there are often opportunities in more remote areas, and it is something that employers do struggle to fill those positions more so than within the cities. So just one thing to keep in mind when you're looking for those early career stage jobs as well.
Perfect, thank you. And Erica, I know we haven't been to you in a little while, so I'm wondering if you have anything to add on that.
Hi. So I was just answering a private message here on, we're looking at sort of getting into the industry.
Yeah, and how would you suggest people kind of get their foot in the door in the first place?
Yeah, for sure. Really, it's just about going after those opportunities that are out there, even if you don't have all of the, maybe all of the skills that are listed. It really comes down to the candidate. And I know in our industry too, we also have a lot of co-op opportunities as well, so look out for those. But yeah, really just be willing to take a really entry-level job and work up from there, definitely.
That's a good point about looking at job applications, because I know there is statistics for women in particular, that if there's even one thing that they're not qualified for on the job posting, then we're very quick to count ourselves out and not apply and that sort of thing. So it doesn't hurt to apply for these positions too. So great point on that. And I'm going to move the conversation over. We had a question about professional designations. And I'm wondering if you see that one, Ilza, from Lauren. So is the environmental professional on par with something like the PAG in terms of industry recognition? I'm wondering if you could speak to that at all.
So it certainly can be. So the EP designation is the only national environmental designation. It's environmental specific and measures your knowledge and experience against that set of competencies that I measured earlier. It's the National Occupational Standards for Environmental Employment. And when you apply to become an EP designated member, you can select from areas of specialization as well. So if you work in waste management, or you work in air quality or water quality or sustainability, you're getting verified against those particular competencies that apply to your area of work. And you might work in multiple areas, and so you can have multiple specializations as well. In comparison with other professional designations, it really depends. So we have a significant portion of our membership that also have a PEng or their PAG or their professional registered professional biologist that also choose to have the EP designation because it speaks to that level of environmental specific experience that they have. And so it can be complementary and it can be standalone. So hopefully that answers Lauren's question, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anybody has any follow-up questions in that realm, feel free to pop them into the chat box there. And we have one there from Kadia. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name, but just sent to me. So he wanted to ask for advice about, he doesn't have Canadian experience yet or an educational background in there. Is there any recommendations you would have for him in bridging that gap and getting into the environmental sector with prior experience from outside of the country?
I can speak to that one a little bit too. So there are a number of organizations that do offer like career transition services or supports. I know that when we have funding for it, we offer an immigrant bridging program at Eco Canada, and that is really valuable for people who have international environmental experience but haven't yet been able to get that opportunity within Canada. And so that's a number of courses that can be taken to sort of upskill and skill build for the Canadian industry. But we're not the only ones out there by any means. There are lots of service organizations that can assist with that type of work. And what we often encourage people to do as well is, even if you're not in Canada yet, you can start taking courses that you know will be recognized here. So, there's a lot of great online programs as well that are available for people to get Canadian recognized credentials as well.
Thank you. And we do have Now here, who is from our Royal Roads International Enrollment team, and she might be able to help out as well if you just want to follow up with your email address in the chat box or anything like that about what that could look like with taking other courses from outside of the country too. So I recognize this was a super quick session and it's coming to a close, and I want to do just a few last asks before I head into the final notes. So first of all, I can see in the chat box that there's already so much wisdom here. There's people who've been sharing different experiences to get some more experience under your belt as well, unpaid but still valuable work, and people helping each other with advice on chemistry degrees and all sorts of things like that. So I want you to, everybody, if you want to use the chat box to provide any other advice that you've had in your own career journey or thoughts that you have, feel free to type them into the chat box. And while you do that, I would love to do another round of the panel, just a quick 1 minute. What makes you hopeful for the future of your industry? So might be a tough question, but is there anybody who wants to start out on that one?
Sure, I'll go there. I would just say I'm hopeful because I've seen so much growth in this industry, particularly for me who's in waste management, and with our clients, with environmental regulations becoming more and more stringent, and then people wanting to do the right thing, companies wanting to be environmentally responsible. Looking into the future, there's going to be so much opportunity and so many interesting ways to support the environment. And that's really what makes me hopeful, is just seeing the growth over the years that I've been in this industry.
Perfect, thank you. I'll move to Joanna next. What makes you hopeful?
For me, it's just the innovation. It's the taking the latest, the technology, and growing that in a problem solving way. I think, in consulting, I think generally, because we work so closely with industry, I think they're really striving to be the leading edge for implementing the technology. I think, and it speaks to innovative nature. And we may not find we work so much in research, like biology research, but it's more of applied science as consultants. But I think it's exciting that we can take that to and really implement that for the good of a project and for the good of the environment. And also, I think someone touched on the changes in policies and the legislation around environmental assessment, both in BC, the new act implemented a couple of years ago now, and then the IAA, the federal act as well, and the real strive and the focus on how to incorporate Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous ways of knowing and values into impact assessment. And it's kind of an exciting time. We're still in that transition phase of phasing out the old way and bringing in that new way, and of increasing the presence of Indigenous voice to impact assessment. So it's kind of, I'm excited for what's the future in that respect, and I encourage everyone to kind of learn a bit more on that. There's the websites, the federal and the BC websites provide a lot of information and guidance and direction on how that gets implemented, and the value. I'm just going to touch on someone's comment here in the chat box about policy knowledge. I think someone asked about how do how do you research policy? I think in terms of my experience, when I started out as a junior position in a consulting company, I knew very little about policy and regulations. But as a entry level biologist, environmental scientist, through your work, you do get that opportunity to review and understand and figure out all these things. So don't be turned off from not knowing right now. I think in your job you'll become knowledgeable. So yeah, just a point there, just a tip.
Fantastic, thank you, Joanna. Emily?
There's two things that make me really excited about this industry. Is I think now more than ever, there's more collaboration and kind of camaraderie around a lot of the work that we're doing. So you don't have to be a specialist in everything. We can share the part to all take care of the environment. At least this is what's kind of happening in the not-for-profit world, which has been really awesome. And something else that makes me really excited is just in working with kids all the time and with younger people, there's so many awesome, amazing ideas. And so I think, the next 10 years or so, we're going to see like huge, like Joanna was saying, developments in technology and social change and all these other policies that I think is going to totally change the industry for the better. So yeah.
Amazing, thank you, Emily. And Elsa, we'll finish up with you on what makes you hopeful.
Very, very similar to what has already been said, but I know that the latest generation coming out of school is the most educated generation that has ever lived, and that is really exciting. And similar to what Emily said, so there's all kinds of new ideas that come along with that and new knowledge, and I'm really hopeful and confident that that's going to turn into solutions to address some of the environmental challenges that we have today, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And I recognize that we're on time. So if you do have to jet off, I totally understand. We'll be sending out the recording to everyone afterwards as well. And with that, I'm going to just take us through a few final resources. Just bear with me while I reshare my screen here. So I've seen that everybody's been sharing more resources in the chat box, which is amazing. And if we did not get to your question in here as well, you're welcome to send us an email too. We'll have an email address available for you to check in with. So we do have a whole career services team at the university. If you are joining us as a current student today, you're welcome to make an appointment with them, or you can check out the job board on our website. We have interview tips, and we also host a few other events, one happening in November, which is a joint event with several different universities around the island that you can check out, and also a career development conference in February 2021. And Emily today was a alumni from this program here. If you are in a place where you're looking to get more education under your belt before you head into this field, we do offer this program in a few different formats. So we first have on campus, which is intensive. It's years 3 and 4 that are completed over 1 calendar year. And we have a blended option, which is a mix of both on-campus residencies and online courses. So that is years 3 and 4, which are completed over 2 calendar years and allows you to work at the same time a little bit more easily. And of course, we have protocols to adapt to both of these situations during COVID times right now. If you're interested in any other programs, the ones that have stars beside them within our School of Environment and Sustainability are Eco-Canada accredited programs, which is fantastic, and it sets you up to be able to attain that EP designation as well. And we have a whole slate of other programs if you are interested too. I took the Graduate Certificate in Sustainable Community Development myself and had a wonderful experience getting to know that whole industry too. And if you do need to reach out to us, we highly encourage it. We have Christine here in the chat box who's been sharing lots and lots of fantastic links to more information. She's one example of our awesome enrollment team. You can contact them there, both from if you're coming from within Canada or internationally as well. We have Now in the chat box who represents the international side of our team. And they're there to answer any questions that you may have regarding any educational pathways that you want to take. And with that, I would like to thank everybody so much for joining us in this session today. Obviously, this is such a critical issue, climate change, that we're all working on together. And it was so great to hear the different perspectives of environmental science and how you're all playing a role in addressing this and making our world a better place. So with that, thank you so much for joining us, and to all of our panelists for sharing this information. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.